I'm going to take a guess. By the very fact that you clicked on this video, you probably have a quite important task that you need to do, but instead you're sat here procrastinating by watching YouTube. So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you 7 daily micro habits that don't take a lot of effort at all to implement. They're just kind of small adjustments in your life that can help you significantly improve the quality of your life and your overall happiness, just like they have for me. It's kind of ironic that when preparing for this very video, I just finished a day of meetings and I was feeling slightly worn out. I didn't really feel that motivated or in the mood to prepare to film this video. But my first reaction, as soon as I felt like I was going to procrastinate, I went for a 5-minute walk outside. It's what I usually do when I'm feeling like I don't really want to do something. I take a 5-minute walk, usually outside my apartment. There's a nice swimming pool, a garden area, so I do 1 lap of the swimming pool and I come back to the office, and this for me is the single best anti-procrastination tool because it's free, it takes 5 minutes, yet it's so incredibly effective. And I think it works for multiple reasons. Firstly, it kind of snaps you out of that procrastination mindset, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just in your mind. Secondly, you go out, you get fresh air and it wakes you up. Thirdly, you're kind of moving around, you're getting your blood circulation going, so you start to feel more awake. And as soon as you sit back down at your desk, you know that it's time to work. Almost like you've had your break and now it's time to work. Often we procrastinate because the task that we have to do is overwhelming, like writing a 5,000 word assignment, for example. It would probably take a long time to write that assignment, and so it can seem quite intimidating. So daily habit number 2 is to break your big tasks into bite-sized chunks. So I was talking with a friend a few weeks ago and she is in the process of writing a book. Let's say that book is going to be 60,000 words, and she told me that it's so much easier tackling it by, in her mind, seeing it as though she has to write 10 chapters, with each chapter almost like a mini book in itself, and each chapter with something actually teachable. So by breaking it down like that, suddenly writing 60,000 words doesn't seem as intimidating anymore, because actually she just needs to write 6,000 words 10 times. I use this strategy all the time. Any big task that's going to take, let's say, more than 5 hours, I break it down so it's far more manageable. For example, I have 2 Skillshare classes right now, one on how to study smarter, not harder. So basically, it kind of teaches you how to study more efficiently so you don't need to be studying 10 or 12 hours a day. And the second course on how to improve your self-discipline and beat procrastination. Both of those classes took a long time to make, but just like my friend did with her book, I split it into chunks that were far more manageable. I think each video is about 7 or 8 minutes long, so then it was just like, okay, I just need to make a 7-minute video 20 times. And by the way, if you are interested in checking out either of these 2 classes, you can access them for free with the 1-month free trial. There's a link in the description below. The next micro habit is something that I actually only started implementing earlier this week. I realized that often my long-term goals would start to get a bit unclear, as in I'd almost forget about them. So if I don't have a clear road path of where I'm going in terms of health, in terms of business, in terms of just my kind of overall happiness, then it's far less likely that I'll actually arrive there. So my next micro habit is to review your long-term goals daily. I think the most common reason we actually fail to achieve our long-term goals is very simply because we start to slowly forget about them. And when we lack a system to keep our goals in the forefront of our mind, they slowly start to fade away. So like I said, I go through my main goals every morning, so when I'm working throughout the day, I'm working with purpose. I'm not just coasting through life, but I'm working with kind of purpose and intent, I guess. And although I've only had this micro habit for literally just a few days, it has definitely helped me increase my productivity in those few days that I have been implementing it. So all the micro habits that I've discussed so far are short-term micro habits that will help your productivity short-term. But what about your productivity long-term? I mean, what can you do to be productive for the next year or the next 5 years, not just the next few hours? So this is probably the most powerful kind of micro habit in this entire video, and that is attract greatness. this one single strategy has completely transformed my life. I've seen a really strong positive correlation between how high achieving the people I surround myself with are and how productive I am. So for example, when I was young, I surrounded myself with average, and so I was average. I procrastinated a lot, I just didn't really do much. But as I grew up, I started to attract more successful people around me, and as a direct result, I became more successful because that energy is contagious. Ambition, motivation, creativity, it's all contagious. So maybe you'll notice this too. As soon as you start making positive changes in your life, maybe you are working harder or getting promoted or getting fitter and losing weight, you'll motivate and inspire the people around you too and help lift them up. It really is a powerful thing. The fourth micro habit is know what time you operate at your optimum and take advantage of it. So for me, I'm by far my most productive in the morning as soon as I wake up. However, I have friends that just can't do anything at that time, and they function far better in the evening and the early hours of the morning. And there have been scientific studies that show that that's in our DNA. And there's a theory, although it's an unproven theory, that millions of years ago when we were cavemen, most people in the tribe had to be awake during the day. But some people had to be awake throughout the night, sometimes to protect their caves from attacks from predators such as saber-toothed tigers, and sometimes to hunt at night under the cover of darkness. So I'm at my most productive in the morning, so I assign my tasks so that the most important or the hardest and the most complex tasks are done in the morning. Then in the afternoon, when I have slightly less energy, I'll do more creative tasks. I'll schedule meetings at that time, basically tasks that are a lot easier to carry out. It's really just about matching your tasks with your energy levels throughout the day, because you'll probably realize that every day you have the most energy at the same time, and then your energy will kind of slump at the same time every day too. Another way I kind of see it is that in the morning is for making, right? And the afternoon is for managing. So in the morning, I do my writing, I work on my courses, I work on these kinds of videos. And then in the afternoon, I'm collaborating a lot more with my team and working more on managing and strategizing. Okay, so the next micro habit is good if you have problems waking up in the morning. So by doing this next step, it will force you to get out of bed in the morning. So my alarm is set at 6 every morning. I go to bed at 10 p.m. at night and I wake up at 6 in the morning. But just to make sure that I don't keep hitting the snooze button or I decide to have a lie-in, I set a second alarm on my laptop at 6:20 a.m. which is in the next room. And that alarm clock is on loud, so if I'm not out of bed by 6:15 or 6:20 and I don't cancel the alarm, then that second alarm clock on my laptop is going to go off and probably wake everyone else up in the apartment. I don't want that happening, so it's good motivation for me to kind of just get out of bed at 6:15 so I can turn it off in time. It's really a very small thing, just setting a second alarm, but it really does make a big difference, because if you have a lie-in and keep hitting the snooze button, it's probably going to affect your entire day, because that slow and lazy energy will continue throughout the day. Another micro habit that when I started implementing it a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago now, it's been a bit of a game changer. Hide your phone. So during the lockdown, I realized that my phone became a massive distraction. Whenever I'd be working on my laptop, my phone would always be right there next to me. And every 20 or so minutes, or any time that I'd feel even the tiniest bit bored, I'd pick up my phone and start scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. Now, I never used to get distracted that easily. It was only since working from home that started to happen. So now during my morning deep work hours, I put my phone away and turn all notifications off. I still have it in the same room, but I put it in the corner where I don't see it anymore. And I'll be honest, I still get a bit distracted from it every now and then, but it's far less than what it was. If my phone is right there next to my laptop, then of course I'd get distracted a lot more often from it. And it's not necessarily the time that you spend on those apps like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those kind of apps, but it's more about every time you get distracted when you're working, and your mind shifts focus from your work to your phone. And that right there is where the real damage is done, because every time you switch focus, it's kind of training your brain to receive this dopamine hit. And every time you switch focus from work to social media, you're rewarding your brain with a small dopamine hit. And so it can very easily progressively get worse and worse. And of course, every time you lose focus, you then have to go back to work and get that focus back, which can take a long time. Long story short, it's very hard to do good quality work in a deep focused kind of state if you keep getting distracted. And one more micro habit I want to talk about, which is kind of like a bonus because I think this is so incredibly important, and that is to identify your top 3 daily goals. I kind of go a bit extreme with this, and I have just one goal a day, so whatever happens that day, as long as I get that one main task done, and that's usually the task that will take me closest to my overall long-term goal, then it's been a good day. Because when I clearly identify my priorities, the entire day is just far more focused. I guess it's the Pareto principle in effect, where it's likely that in your life right now, you're doing tasks that make you feel like you're being productive, but they're a complete waste of time really, because they're not really bringing you closer to your overall goal. They're tasks that don't really matter that much, and it's really these tasks that you need to either delegate out or completely remove altogether. So those are my 7 micro habits that I have implemented into my life. I could talk about these micro habits all day because there really are so many. I'm implementing and experimenting with so many more habits that I can add in this video. For example, I'm currently drinking 3 liters of water a day, which has without a doubt improved my productivity. I'm using calendars and task lists, which help massively too. There's just so much more to talk about, but if you want to learn more about how you can implement micro habits to improve your productivity, then do check out my video on 6 rules for a productive 24 hours that I uploaded just a few weeks ago. You can click on the video on the screen. It's a super important video. Alternatively, I made a morning routine video basically going through what I do in the morning to really just kind of make sure that the day starts off strong, because the morning is, in my opinion, the most important part of the day when it comes to productivity. Anyway, whichever video you choose, I'll see you over there.